Today on Daily Tech Hack Global, 3 things matter for builders and security teams. First, a critical vulnerability in an AI developer workflow, CVE 2026-12537 affecting Google Gemini CLI. Second, AI infrastructure is moving deeper into custom chips and cloud capacity. Third, the defensive playbook for agentic systems is getting clearer. Keep permissions narrow, validate identity, and prove what your automation actually did. The headline is not panic. It is that AI tools are now part of production engineering, so the same old security fundamentals need to be applied faster and more consistently. The lead security story is CVE 2026-12537. NVD rates it critical with CVSS 10.0. The description says the issue involves improper neutralization used in an operating system command in the container launcher for Google Gemini CLI versions before 0.39.1 and the Run Gemini CLI GitHub action before 0.1.22 on headless CI platforms. The reported risk is pre-sandbox host-level code execution from a maliciously crafted .gemini environment file. Confirmed source, NVD and the linked GitHub security advisory. What matters for teams is the location of the risk, not a consumer chatbot, but the developer and CI path where agents can touch repositories, secrets, build systems, and deployment credentials. The practical response is straightforward. Upgrade Google Gemini CLI to 0.39.1 or later and run Gemini CLI GitHub action to 0.1.22 or later. Then check where Gemini CLI or its GitHub action is used: developer laptops, test runners, ephemeral build containers, and scheduled automation. Treat the CI environment as sensitive even if it is temporary. Review recent workflow runs for unexpected file changes, abnormal commands, or unusual outbound access. If the tool had access to deployment keys or cloud credentials, consider secret rotation based on exposure. The analysis here is defensive. We are not walking through an exploit chain, because the useful takeaway is asset ownership, upgrade validation, and blast radius reduction. Next, CVE 2026-11718 affects Google MCP Toolbox. NVD lists it as critical with CVSS 9.3. Confirmed fact: an authentication bypass vulnerability exists in the generic opaque token validation path, validate opaque token, of Google APIs/MCP Toolbox. When the toolbox validates an opaque token via an OAuth 2.0 introspection endpoint, RFC 7662, it decodes the response into an introspect RESP struct. However, the subsequent claim-checking logic, validate claims, evaluates. Why it matters: this matters because modern AI and cloud workflows multiply the impact of identity mistakes, exposed secrets, unsafe package handling, and overpermissive automation. Recommended action: review the linked advisory and upgrade to the fixed version. Also reduce exposure while patching, place admin APIs behind trusted networks, restrict source IPs, verify authentication headers, rotate tokens if secrets may have been exposed, and watch logs for unusual access patterns. Next, CVE 2026-56270 affects Flowise. NVD lists it as high with CVSS 8.7. Confirmed fact: Flowise before 3.1.0, versions 3.0.13 and earlier, contains a missing authentication vulnerability in the /API/v1/login method endpoint that allows unauthenticated users to retrieve an organization's complete SSO configuration, including OAuth client secrets in clear text, by providing an organization ID parameter. Remote attackers can send a GET request to HAR. Why it matters: this matters because modern AI and cloud workflows multiply the impact of identity mistakes, exposed secrets, unsafe package handling, and overpermissive automation. Recommended action: upgrade Flowise to 3.1.0 or later and rotate exposed OAuth credentials where relevant. Also reduce exposure while patching, place admin APIs behind trusted networks, restrict source IPs, verify authentication headers, rotate tokens if secrets may have been exposed, and watch logs for unusual access patterns. Next, CVE 2026-27604 affects FOSS billing. NVD lists it as critical with CVSS 10.0. Confirmed fact, FOSS billing is a free, open-source billing and client management system. Starting in version 0.5.4 and prior to version 0.8.0, an authorization bypass in the API role handling allows unauthenticated access to privileged/API/system/*endpoints. Because system resolves to the cron admin identity, attackers can invoke admin API methods without valid credence. Why it matters? This matters because modern AI and cloud workflows multiply the impact of identity mistakes, exposed secrets, unsafe package handling, and overpermissive automation. Recommended action: review the linked advisory and upgrade to the fixed version. Also reduce exposure while patching, place admin APIs behind trusted networks, restrict source IPs, verify authentication headers, rotate tokens if secrets may have been exposed, and watch logs for unusual access patterns. On the AI infrastructure side, TechCrunch AI reported, OpenAI unveils its first custom chip, built by Broadcom. The summary available from the feed says named Jalapeno, the new processor was designed specifically for the unique needs of OpenAI's inference systems. The confirmed takeaway is that large AI providers continue to optimize for inference economics, power, latency, and supply chain control. The analysis: custom silicon does not just affect model companies. It can reshape cloud pricing, regional capacity, and the speed at which businesses deploy AI features. For startups and enterprise teams, the question is less about owning chips and more about designing systems that can move across providers if capacity, cost, or compliance changes. Microsoft's official blog also points to the operational side of this shift, rethinking cloud operations with agentic observability. Its feed summary says cloud operations are entering a new era as AI-driven and autonomous agents become a larger part of modern software systems. That is important because observability becomes a safety feature, not just a dashboard. If agents can make changes, open tickets, restart services, or trigger deployments, teams need traces, approvals, policy checks, and rollback plans. A smart agent without auditability is not operational maturity, it is hidden change management. GitHub's recent AI developer coverage adds the builder angle: how we built an internal data analytics agent. The broader lesson is that teams are moving from simple code completion to agents that query data, use command lines, and take multi-step actions. That raises productivity, but it also raises dependency on permissions and guardrails. Before expanding agent access, define which repositories, secrets, shell commands, and production systems are off-limits by default. Then measure whether the controls are actually enforced. Here is the checklist for the next 24 hours. 1. Inventory the affected AI and developer tools and CI, developer machines, and self-hosted automation. 2. Patch the listed versions and document validation evidence, not just a ticket comment. 3. Rotate secrets when a vulnerability could have exposed OAuth credentials, cloud keys, API tokens, or package publishing access. 4. Add detection for unusual workflow runs, suspicious package metadata, unexpected admin API calls, and identity provider mismatches. 5. For AI agents, apply least privilege before adding new capabilities. If an agent only needs read access, do not give it write access. If it only needs one repo, do not give it the organization. Bottom line, AI is making software faster, but speed increases the value of boring controls. Custom chips and agentic cloud operations show where the industry is going. Today's CVEs show where it can break. The teams that win will connect both realities, use AI where it helps, but keep identity validation, patch discipline, secret hygiene, logging, and human approval where the blast radius is real.